Have you ever pondered the power of ideas and how they shape our world? Ideas are potent catalysts for change, driving our society forward. They are the bedrock of innovation, the spark that ignites revolutions, and the driving force behind the world's greatest achievements. Now let's consider where these ideas originate. Think tanks. These are organizations where experts from various fields come together to research and brainstorm. They delve into some of the most pressing issues of our time, from climate change to economic inequality, from healthcare to national security. They analyze, they debate, they propose. The role of think tanks in society is much like that of a chef in a kitchen. The ingredients, the raw data and facts are all out there. These organizations, much like the chef, take these ingredients, analyze them, mix them, and finally concoct a dish, an idea, a policy, a solution. Think tanks are the birthplace of many ideas that influence the political, economic, and social landscape. They provide the intellectual fodder for policymakers, the seeds of thought that grow into legislations, reforms, and movements. They are the breeding ground for strategies and policies that shape nations, that guide the course of our collective futures. These ideas, born in the minds of experts at think tanks, then trickle down into society. They are debated in parliaments, implemented in boardrooms, and discussed over dinner tables. They shape public opinion, mold policy decisions, and influence the direction of our society. But their influence extends beyond the realm of policymaking. They also shape the narrative, framing the way we perceive and understand issues. They provide the lens through which we view our world, subtly shaping our beliefs, our values, and our actions. So the next time you hear a policy announcement or read about a new strategy, remember that it's likely the brainchild of a think tank, the unseen architects of our world, shaping our thoughts, our lives, and our futures with the power of ideas. Think tanks, in essence, are the unseen architects of our world. To truly grasp the influence of think tanks, we need to delve into a real-world example. Let's travel back in time to the early 80s, the era of Ronald Reagan and his economic policies, famously known as Reaganomics. A key player behind the scenes, shaping these policies, was the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank based in Washington, D.C. The Heritage Foundation emerged in the mid-70s as a forceful advocate for conservative ideas. It sought to counterbalance the perceived liberal bias in public policy research and discussions. Back then, it was a newcomer, a fresh face on the block of policy influencers. But that didn't stop it from aiming high. When Ronald Reagan won the presidential elections in 1980, the Heritage Foundation seized the moment. They presented the Reagan administration with a comprehensive policy guide titled Mandate for Leadership. This document, a whopping 1,000 pages, was a blueprint for implementing conservative policies across various sectors of government. It provided detailed policy recommendations, right down to the specific budget allocations and legislative changes required. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's just a bunch of policy suggestions, right? How much of an impact could it really have? The answer, ladies and gentlemen, is quite a lot. Reagan took office in January 1981, and by the end of his first year in office, nearly 2/3 of the Heritage Foundation's policy recommendations had been initiated or enacted. That's a staggering influence for a think tank, wouldn't you agree? These policies played a substantial role in shaping Reagan's economic approach, which centered on reducing government spending, cutting taxes, and deregulating the economy. The ripple effects of these policies were far-reaching, triggering a wave of economic changes that continue to be felt even today. We can see the influence of the Heritage Foundation's recommendations in key aspects of Reaganomics. For instance, the Economic Recovery Tax Act of 1981, which slashed income tax rates across the board, was a direct reflection of the think tank's advocacy for lower taxes. Similarly, the drive towards deregulation, another cornerstone of Reaganomics, was heavily influenced by the Heritage Foundation's call to cut back on government intervention in the economy. This led to a significant reduction in federal regulations, particularly in sectors like banking and telecommunications. Of course, the impact of these policies is a topic of much debate among economists and historians. Some praise Reaganomics for revitalizing the American economy, while others criticize it for widening the wealth gap and triggering economic instability. But regardless of where you stand on this debate, one thing is clear: the influence of the Heritage Foundation was undeniable in shaping these policies. As we can see, the ripple effects of think tanks' influence can be monumental. But how does a think tank wield such influence, you may wonder? Well, it's a carefully orchestrated process that involves meticulous research, strategic advocacy, and effective dissemination of ideas. Firstly, think tanks are intellectual powerhouses. They are home to some of the brightest minds who conduct rigorous research on a myriad of topics, from economics to foreign policy, social issues, to environmental challenges. This research forms the bedrock of their influence. It's not just about having an idea, it's about having a well-researched, evidence-backed idea that can stand up to scrutiny. But research alone is not enough. Next comes advocacy. Think tanks don't just passively create knowledge, they actively promote their ideas. They engage in advocacy to shape public opinion and policy direction. They lobby policymakers, submit policy briefs, and sometimes even draft legislation. They are not just observers of the political process. They are active participants, pushing for the adoption of their ideas. Finally, think tanks disseminate their ideas far and wide. They publish their research in reports, policy briefs, and books. They use media, both traditional and digital, to reach a broader audience. They host events, talks, and networking sessions, bringing together stakeholders from various sectors. It's all about getting their ideas out there, making them part of the public discourse. And it's not just about reaching policymakers or academics. Think tanks also aim to influence the public. After all, public opinion can be a powerful driver of policy change. By shaping the narrative, think tanks can sway public sentiment and, in turn, pressure policymakers to act. Through these mechanisms, think tanks weave their ideas into the tapestry of our society. They don't just reflect the world, they help shape it. They influence not just what we think, but how we think. They play a pivotal role in shaping our collective future, one idea at a time. Through these mechanisms, think tanks weave their ideas into the tapestry of our society. Yet, like any tool, think tanks can be a double-edged sword. This is not to say that they are inherently bad or good, but rather that their influence can have both positive and negative implications. To begin with, think tanks can sometimes harbor biases. While they aim to research and provide objective analysis, they are, after all, human institutions. Their work can be influenced by the beliefs and perspectives of their researchers, their funders, or even the political climate of the time. This can lead to a skewing of information, a selective presentation of facts, or an undue emphasis on certain issues over others. Another potential pitfall is the lack of transparency. Not all think tanks are forthcoming about their funding sources or their methodologies. This can make it difficult to ascertain the credibility of their work. Are their conclusions based on solid research, or are they simply echoing the views of their sponsors? Without full transparency, it can be challenging to separate fact from fiction. Perhaps one of the most contentious aspects of think tanks is the risk of them being used as vehicles for lobbying. Some entities may use the intellectual clout and respectability of think tanks to push their own agendas. This could involve promoting certain policies, influencing legislation, or even swaying public opinion. This is not to say that all think tanks engage in such practices, but the potential is there, and it is something to be aware of. Despite these drawbacks, it's important to remember that think tanks play a vital role in our society. They contribute to the marketplace of ideas, stimulate public debate, and provide valuable insights into complex issues. Yet their influence is not without its challenges. It is therefore crucial for us, as informed citizens, to critically evaluate the information presented to us. We need to ask questions, seek out diverse sources, and engage in thoughtful analysis. In this way, we can make the most of the insights provided by think tanks, while also navigating the potential pitfalls. Only then can we truly harness the power of ideas to shape our world. So, what role do think tanks play in shaping political agendas? The answer, as we've explored, is multifaceted and significant. Think tanks are powerhouses of ideas, generating innovative solutions to complex problems. They are the architects of policy, crafting strategies that guide our political landscape. Their reach extends far beyond the confines of their research labs, influencing our world in ways that are both subtle and profound. Think tanks serve as intermediaries between academic knowledge and practical policymaking, translating complex theories into actionable strategies. They provide a platform for dialogue and debate, fostering a culture of critical thought and intellectual rigor. They play a vital role in informing public opinion, shaping narratives, and guiding decision-making. Yet their influence is not without its challenges. It's a double-edged sword, one that necessitates transparency and accountability. In the end, the power of think tanks lies in their ability to shape our thinking. So next time you hear a policy proposal, ask yourself, which think tank might be behind this?